Hi there, today's book is The Last Party by Clare Mackintosh. This book is set in a small Welsh town where we have a development that's coming up called The Shores. The Shores is located on the lake. It's called Mirror Lake, and it's called that way, which is the English version. There is a Welsh name for it. It's called that because the lake just shimmers. It almost looks like a mirror, and it reflects everything on the side of it, and just pretty much looks like a mirror. It's very still. And then there's also a mountain there called Dragon Tail or something like that. That is has its own feature as well. If you look closely, it looks like there's a dragon's tail, and so there's a little fable around that. So it's one of those small towns where the locals kind of keep to themselves. They were opposed to this development. However, the land was inherited from one of the gentleman's father, and so he decided to put a resort there, which the locals did not like. Anyway, the locals kind of keep to themselves. They don't really like the English people, as they call them, because they're Welsh, and I think it's a part of the reason is because they're kind of act like they're high and mighty. And then also they have some political history where they have grievances against the English. So they don't really like it. They didn't like the idea of the resort either. So there's the resort owners or the people who come in, and then there's the locals. So anyway, there are 5 resorts that have been built, and there are right on the lake. And so there's plans for development of more resorts, but they have to get these sold and then of course do their marketing to get more money in and get people interested to be able to build the other ones that they have planned. So these 5 first units are owned by Jaunty and his wife Blythe. He is one of the partners for the resort, along with Reese Lloyd, who owns one of the units, along with his wife Yasmin, and they have 2 daughters, Tabby and Felicia. So Jaunty and Reese are pretty much the guys who are in charge of building the resort and all that. And then the other 3 owners are Clemmy Northcott, and she has a son, Caleb, who's a teenager. And then we have Ashley and Bobby. Ashley's an influencer, and her husband is a former boxer. And then there is Dee Huxley. She's an older lady who owns the other unit. So the way that this is set up, it's supposed to be for rich people, and so they want them sold for cash. So everybody's gotten theirs except for one of the owners who, out of desperation, Reese had decided that he would get a loan and then allow her to pay back, just because they were under pressure to sell the units and the investors, were pressuring them. So they should have been sold all cash, but one wasn't. So anyway, this whole story takes place between Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. And so this tells about the events of what's happening between the parties and things that have led up to what's going on during this time and the events leading up to the New Year's Eve party. So we know that when the New Year's Eve party happened, that Reese Lloyd was found dead. And so the story takes on his life and things that led up to that. And then we meet Leo Bradford. I think that's his name. I hope I didn't get that wrong. Who is in charge of the investigation, along with Fionn Morgan. Fionn is a local girl, but she's very feisty. Leo, on the other hand, is the extreme opposite. He has a boss who is he's ornery, and he also picks on Leo, and Leo never says anything. So he always has smart things to say and demeaning and belittling him. And so when the two linked up and Fionn noticed that, she decided he had to say something, but he didn't want to. So she, being the outsider, because Leo came in to help with the investigation from a different area of Wales. And so she decided, because that's not her boss, she can speak up. So the two are very much opposites. So another thing that happened was that when they first met up to work on the case, she realizes that she knew him from, an encounter. So it started out a little bit awkward. So anyway, so the investigation goes along to determine what had happened, what Reese was involved in and what led up to his death. Now, Reese was an opera singer. He's well known. He's a local boy. This resort is built where he grew up. So everybody's proud of him. He's, the people who knew him growing up think highly of him, but most locals don't like him because he is not very nice. He's a jerk. So we get to find out now that during the investigation of his murder, that things aren't really what they seem. In the public image of him, that he's well off, he's got this nice family, but that's not really the case. He's having marital problems, he's having financial problems, and he's got a history of abuse that I don't know that his wife knew about, but maybe she did. We also find out that, there are other members of the party or other members in the Shores have secrets as well, which during the investigation start to come out. So while they were looking to determine what happened to him and they're following leads, they found out that one person reported that they saw a boat with red sails that was in the area around the time that Reese would have gone into the water. So they're following that lead, and they go to this lady, Anhara. She's an older lady who lives across the lake, and so she takes her boat to get to town. And so when they went over to talk to her, of course, Fionn was saying there's no way. But of course, Leo, being the objective one and the outsider, believes that he's got to follow the line of investigation. And so they talked to her, and so she mentions that her boat was taken to the shop to get worked on because something was wrong with it. And so the local person who works on the boat is Stefan. And so they had to go talk to him about that. And so, in talking to different people, there's different directions that they're taking the investigation. Now, the night of the party, Reese was very inebriated, it seems, but from his perspective, we hear the story from different people's perspective as well, as far as what happened that night, and then also, what's going on between them and their interactions from different people's point of view. So he was feeling sort of out of it, but he didn't really drink that much, so he wasn't quite sure why he was feeling so out of it. And so when he decided that he was going to go home and lay down, and so, he ended up dead. So when the police went to go interrogate his wife, and they looked through the house, they found some medications in the bathroom, and she was acting really weird. So they were wondering, what was up with that. So when they talked to the coroner didn't really find any drugs in his system, but they did discover in the course of doing the autopsy that he had some blunt force trauma, and then also they didn't find any any drugs in his system. But they also found out from his Apple Watch that his his heart rate had began spiking earlier during the day, and was the readings weren't normal. So they thought that maybe he was drugged, or something was wrong, or maybe he was on drugs for his heart rate to be like that, very erratic and very high throughout the day until the reading went off when he died. So they thought that maybe he was drugged. Was he on drugs? But his wife had said he would never do drugs because that messed up his singing. So that wasn't the case either. We find out that he was getting harassed online from, I guess, people saying that, he was washed out, had mean things to say about him, which he didn't think much of it because, of course, he says that comes with the territory. Until one day, his wife reports that some lady showed up wanting to talk to him, and how she had threatened her and the children. She was all, hysterical. So this was when he decided that he had to tell the police about the threatening messages that he was receiving online. So when the police came by, of course, the lady was nowhere to be found. The wife gave a description, but they never found out who this lady was. So in the course of the investigation now, they discovered that a couple of the messages on Twitter that were threatening towards Reese, they were able to track it to a local cafe, and using their technologies and triangulation, they found out that the device that sent those messages belonged to his wife, none other than Yasmin. So they brought her in, and at one point she was arrested, and there were some secrets that she was holding that came out as well. She was, there were reasons why she was posting these messages. And then also she was having an affair with one of the men who live at the shores. Also, during the investigation as well, we find out that Reese has some secrets that he was having as well. Because when the police did the look through his phone records, we find out that he had some connections to a place called Number 36. Now, Number 36 is like a brothel kind of. And so during their investigation, they found out that his membership had been revoked and that he had assaulted one of the workers there. So as we go through the book, we discover that this was not just a one-time thing. He has a history of violence against women, which it's funny that he is a very popular guy, but nobody ever had the nerve to report him or anything like that. He never got in trouble for this, not because he paid anybody off, but I guess people were scared of him. We also find out there's a connection between Reese and Fionn growing up, and that's related to his habits. And there's a secret that she never told anyone that involved him as well. So we find out also while the police was investigating and interrogating Yasmin about the will, she stand to get a significant amount of money upon his death from the life insurance, but also in the partnership that Reese had with Jonty, she would end up inheriting his shares of the shores. And he had the controlling majority of the partnership, so she would be rich. So they thought maybe, this was the reason why she had him killed. So there is also Dee Huxley, who is the older lady. She has a connection to Reese as well. And there's a secret for Reese that she's kind of holding, and he knows about it, so he has to tread lightly. And so he doesn't want to do anything to cause her to reveal the secrets that she holds for him. Now, Clemmy, she doesn't really fit in because she's not really rich. She's just there as a result of the loan and the favor that Reese had done for her. And they benefited both from that anyway. It's not like he was really doing it out the goodness of his heart. But before Reese had died, he had wanted her to pay up. And of course, she had owed for almost £500,000 for her unit, and she didn't have that kind of money. So that little agreement they had came to light during that time. And so the police, felt like there had to be a connection between that, because that was really coincidental and convenient for her now to be pretty much free and clear from the loan as a result of the death of Reese. So as far as Ashley and Bobby goes, we find out that Bobby is having an affair with one of the local girls, and he initially tried to hide it, but towards the end, he was just tired of, the marriage that he was having with Ashley, because she's the influencer type, and everything that they do has, you have to pause and take a picture. She's got to post it. That's the first thing that comes to his mind. And he was just tired of that. And so, in the end, that kind of came to its conclusion. There's also another secret that was revealed as well regarding Jonty and Reese in their handling of their children. So Blythe was saying how, Jonty was great with the children. They have 2 children. There's Hester and Woody. They have 2 little kids. And she was saying how great he is with the kids, and she didn't know what his secret was to get them down at bedtime. He always just brought them up, and in no time they were to bed. And so we discover this secret that John C. and Reese have in common with the handling of the children at bedtime, which is not very good. So this was one of the reasons that Reese and Yasmin were up in arms, and their relationship was even further fracturing because of what she had found out about that. Now, there's also a secret that came out as well that Fionn was holding, because we find out that in her connection with Reese, something that happened that she never told anyone. I think I mentioned that before. But in the end, this is something that came out, and what's twisted about this is that her little sister, Saren, was having a crush on Reese. And we know Reese is a predator, which is discovered in the book. And so I was kind of scared that something would happen to her because she liked Reese. And it seems like Reese was trying to take little steps towards getting involved with her. And so thankfully, things kind of came to a head before anything progressed between the two. But there's something twisted that happened that was revealed towards the end of the book, which thankfully nothing happened between Reese and her. So I was kind of glad about that. So anyway, this was a great one. I enjoyed this one a lot. I would give it 4 stars. There was not anything that was totally predictable in this one. When I saw the book and read the description, I was like, well, more than likely we know somebody probably died on the New Year's Eve, but how would this play out? How far could they take this storyline? And this was a quite interesting one. So if you have read or listened to this book, let me know your thoughts. Until